they want it all, not only quality, they want cheap and of course meeting their requirement and as fast as possible. Maybe we should come back to smaller companies with less people that are doing more added value.
Maybe for starters, tell me, Jan, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from a small village located in the greater Paris area, about 35 kilometers from Paris, center of Paris. So yeah, it's the countryside. I left the big city just to live there with my family and my kids, and I like the life there. It's quiet and not at the same time not too far from the city. So if I want to go there for concerts, for any kind of cultural event, that's manageable. So I have the advantage of living in the countryside and living not too far from a city.
Did you feel like you needed to escape from Paris?
Yeah, that's right. Especially for a couple of years now, they are doing a lot of changes inside the city, and it's very difficult to live there. And of course, the rents are expensive, and everything is rather difficult. So, as a student, I enjoyed the life there. It's very hectic, and but now getting older, it's I have other interests, but still, yeah, I love the city. It's a beautiful place, and I go there, yeah, often.
Did you discuss this change with your kids? How do they perceive this change? Were they excited about it?
Well, actually, before that, 10 years ago, we lived in the south of France, near Nice. I don't know if you Nice on the French Riviera. So it was a very nice place. The seaside with beautiful weather, a lot of interesting as well activities over there. And when we came back to the Paris area, my kids were not so happy about it because of the temperature, the weather, for the friends, etc. So they didn't agree that much. But no, I think they enjoyed that because they can go to the city, they can go out with friends. There is much more to do over there. So I think no, they are not even teenagers anymore. They're adults. But when they were teenagers, they preferred living close to a city. That's true.
Do they have any interest in language industry or localization by any chance?
Well, actually, even though my wife is German, so they live in a bilingual environment. So yeah, they speak both languages, and something they are used to. And we used to travel a lot with them, so they could visit other places, etc. So they were open-minded to different cultures, different languages. And my daughter started studying languages, but after she decided to find another path. And my son now is not really interested in that. So they follow a different path. No localization at all. I'm the only one in the family. Yeah.
So why did your daughter decide to change the path?
Um, Actually, initially she chose what would be for her the most natural or easiest option in terms of education, etc. But then she realized that she was more interested in, what she wanted most was studying psychology. So, well, she can be a bilingual psychologist. So, yeah, I mean, she loves languages and she's pretty gifted for that. She speaks English, German, French, of course, so easily. So that's still something that could be useful for her, I'm sure, in the future. Yeah, but they were not really. I think maybe I didn't give them. I didn't advocate too much for the industry because I was working long hours and working over the weekend, getting stressed sometimes about deliveries to customers and problems with tools or whatever, or finding resources. And so maybe say, oh, maybe it's not that fun. I mean, not go into that branch. Yeah. Yeah. So, no, well, it shows something different. Yeah.
All right. That's a great entry for us to talk about localization for the next 2 hours.
I think, and well, no, I've worked in the industry for over 25 years, so I've seen it change. It's totally different from what it was when I started in the mid 90s, and of course, it's much more structured and professional as it was in the early days, where it was really difficult and not really professionalized, I would say, without much tools or whatever. It's something that's become more normal, say, business.
Well, let's talk about those early days. Did you show interest in languages when you were a teenager?
Yeah, I think pretty early. I like, well, different cultures, different languages, and traveling and being able to talk in the language where in the country I was in. I used to go, well, very often to Spain, Italy, and etc. So I was really learning on my own, and then at school, it was something that came very early into my life, and naturally, I thought that really I could have a job in this sector. At that time, it was could be basically a translator. Then there was not much more option, but many more options to really to work with languages, but then with the European Union, all the say the creation of the Schengen space, etc., where people could travel, visit other countries very easily. Um, yeah, some job opportunities came up as well. Companies were globalizing their activities. They needed to sell their products in different countries, and soon they needed people to translate, to adapt. To the culture and to the language they wanted to market their product. So yeah, it started becoming something rather interesting and with higher focus at university or in schools. So yeah, that evolved, and that's why I chose this path also. So I could combine both what I liked and what I wanted to do in my professional life. So that was a good mix.
So you were personally studying translation. Was it possible at that time?
Yeah, no, I studied what we call foreign languages, and with on top of that, economy and marketing, etc. And then I I got a degree in a translation school, so to say, or university. But in France we say school, but it's more university. Um, and this, of course, we got the education, the background, and the type of training to become translators, but not only. We could work in different international organizations, and to have a career, focusing on international business and so on. So it was not really concrete at the time, but we knew there were some potential and there were some opportunities that would follow. So that's what I did, and I don't regret that actually. I could meet many people from different countries. This was the beginning of Erasmus time. I don't know if you heard about it in Europe, where we could exchange and spend some months in European countries and meeting different people and professors, whatever. So that was a good environment.
Is that how you met your wife?
Well, no, not really. I didn't meet her in during Erasmus, but more on holidays. Not in France or in Germany, in Spain actually. So it's like I guess it became very common, but that was international story.
So did you actually start working as a translator after school, or?
Yeah, when I graduated, I started as a translator in a small company, but which was acquired by at the time it was a US company that was really um, in the process of acquisition and merging, etc., of all the key players in Europe. So back in mid 90s, early 90s, the industry was really scattered. were not the big groups or the big companies, corporations, whatever you call them, that we have now. So in every country, there could have been dozens of smaller LSPs, and in Germany, France, or Spain, Italy. So big companies like at that time Lionbridge or Baum uh, started merging and acquiring all these players, local players, and build up these groups that we know nowadays, like SDL, well, Lionbridge, definitely, or RWS. No, sorry about that. So this was a very good opportunity as well for people who, well, I like translating, but I felt it was not really my objective, professional objective. So new roles were created because the projects were getting bigger and bigger for very large customers like Microsoft, IBM, etc. So they started, and they had their own translation department at that time. So they started externalizing, and LSPs needed to become more professional as well. So they created the roles to manage the project. So the opportunities to become a project manager came up. And basically, there was no real training. You need to learn on the, how do you say that, on the spot or on the fly? No, I don't know. On your own, just yeah, the best you could do, and then some particular curriculum and trainings were put in place in these big companies. So um, the different people that used to work together across the, the countries where the offices were had been created or set up needed to work accordingly with more harmonized processes to deliver, I would say, a constant level of quality, etc. So there were trainings for project managers and something that were organized, I remember, by Lionbridge at the time and Baum, where we used to meet for 1 week with different PMs, project managers from all the different branches, different countries, and we worked and sat there for a couple of days and brainstorm and had training from consultants and whatever. So there was a lot of investment really to get professional project managers. So, and that's actually where I really kicked off my career in this industry as a project manager. I would not consider myself as a translator because translators are really expert, and I really respect their work and what they do. And I just started translating maybe for a couple of months. So it was,
That is actually the question that I had for you, because initially, early, you were kind of like fascinated. You wanted to learn new languages, but then you mentioned that at some point you, I don't know, discovered that being a translator is not your professional objective. So, do you remember like what happened? Like, what did you discover about the role of a translator that made you shift this perspective?
well, yeah, actually, it's mm, I remember that because we were specialized in IT and software localization, and it was really about translating huge printed documentation and manuals at that time without any CAT tool, obviously, really with basic programs, etc. And I found it really not really interested. I was not really interested in IT and how to use can I say a software, etc. And I found it very boring, to be honest. I'm not really interested, and I would not have imagined doing that for the next 40 years. And I liked as well really working with different teams and having the overview over the full process, not only on one part of the localization process or workflow, even though it's really an important one. I wanted to see the full picture and being able to coordinate the different people working on the project and having as well the interactions with the clients. So that was something that was really motivating, and I liked very as well early in the early stages of my professional career. So I thought, well, translating and just having the monitor in front of me and the program and the content to translate, I didn't find it enough motivating for me, and I knew that I would not have been the best in doing that. So there were other possibilities, and that would also give me the the opportunity to talk, to communicate in different language, to visit other people, etc. So that was something I chose rather than sticking to the pure translation.
So eventually, your decision and your new career led to being the operations director, director of operations, however we can call it, which is going to be the main topic of our interview. So maybe let's just jump right into it. What is actually operations management about? You mentioned that you started as a project manager. How does project management differ from operations management?
Well, I think what's production operations, sometimes we tend to use the same, well, have the same concept for these different words, but I think production is a part of operations, so to say, where we actually produce, obviously, and deliver a product. Where operation, it's more how to assign all the talents or resources to deliver a service or well, a product or a service, etc. And uh, following the quality and time and requirements and of course profitability expectations. And this is something. It's the bigger picture, I would say, of the business. What can I say about it? So yeah, and also the target is really to produce the service that would meet the client requirements and making him happy, and to develop the business with that client and to retain it. So it's the way I would define operations actually.
Like when you mentioned that you moved from to the production manager to operations manager, which included, extension to managing different teams, does what you in the essence do change that much or not so much? Because you're still just managing teams, you're just managing more diverse teams. Am I getting this right? Or did you feel like it was completely different world stepping up to the operations manager?
Well, it's true that the teams were different, but I think the expectations, the fancy words, KPIs we had were different also. It's something I know we'll be discussing later. I mean, it was in your list as well, questions. We had other metrics and other indicators. For production, basically, the indicators were mostly about productivity and so on. While for operations, it's finance and productivity, of course, quality. Well, for production also quality was there, but I would say for operations, it's really there is a big emphasis on the financial aspect of the activity, where objectives in terms of margin, profitability, uh, revenue, turnover, etc., etc., which differs slightly from purely production. So, and the teams and the skills of the teams and their the tasks that they were doing also were different. So the different teams, different way to evaluate them and to manage them, definitely.
So when you started managing these new teams, does it mean you had to learn everything from each different function or role? Do you think it's even important for managers to know what their people or teams are doing, or to what kind of level do you need to acquire some knowledge to understand them?
I think, for me, being a project manager, sorry, give me a pretty good picture of the different types of roles that were in the company and in production. So even though I was not a specialist, I knew what localization engineer used to do. I understood it pretty well. I know how DTP worked and the different tools they use, their matrix, also vendor management I knew about as well, and how to recruit external translators, etc. So even though I was not the expert in these different fields, I knew how this was articulated and how this was structured, and yeah, I understood pretty much how this worked. Um, so to answer your question, to be the operations manager, you don't have at all to be a specialist, but of course to have a minimum understanding of translation or localization project and see how the different stakeholders are, and yeah, to know really how this works without being a specialist.
If you were in the position, let's say you have your own company and you have to fill the position for an operations manager, would you rather pick someone who had experience working as an operations manager outside of localization, or would you prefer to pick someone who is maybe like a senior project manager and you already know them?
Yeah, that's a good question, because something I could notice already over the last month, that there are, let's say, two approaches. Some companies, especially big ones, now um, tend to look for people out from outside of the industry to be well, operation managers, or to run how do you say, operational excellence team, etc. So people, of course, with background in other industry, in operations, or people with a consultant role, maybe sometimes very focused on cost killers in previous experience, but without any knowledge about our industry. So I think this, yeah, something that we can discuss, because it's, I will not tell you what is which option is best. I think it's important to know our industry, because it's so specific. And I guess even though this became more standard now, there are some curriculum at university. You can learn to be a project manager, localization project manager. You can, yeah, it's much more structured than what it used to be. There are some organizations now, international ones, who provide, yeah, trainings or webinars, and even summits all over the places all over the world. But I think, if you, depending on your mission, if you don't have this background, you should be able to deal with that if you rely on really strong and senior people in operations, in the different fields of operations or in production, because these people would be the one running the daily or day-to-day business. You're just there to provide some strategy or vision, guidelines, but you don't really have to be hands-on and start stepping in some projects or helping people on concrete tasks. So especially in big groups or big companies, I think it's something I would understand, to look for talent outside of the industry. For smaller ones, I still think that someone with a strong experience and in operations, or project managers or team leader, or someone who, of course, is used to manage people, because this is, at the end of the day, it's people management. Also, I think it's a good option. So it's not yes or no, or it's both. I think a while ago I would have told you, oh, no way, we cannot have someone who doesn't know anything about it. But of course, I see, and I've got two examples of situations where their companies recruited people from, yeah, outside their industry. And so far, I don't know if it failed or not. I guess it worked, but yeah, if really in the organization you have strong and senior people in their role, and I think it should be a good, yeah, a good choice. Yeah, also.
Maybe to flip the question, do you see yourself working as an operations manager for I don't want to say IT because maybe that's somewhat close to localization. But I don't know, like in a restaurant chain.
I hope that well, in the localization industry, we are open to that, to have people without the technical background and the knowledge of industry and experience there, and we are ready to offer the position to people like that. I think it should be done also the other way around, so that people who have had most of their um, career in the industry, in localization industry, can work in other fields. I would personally be open to that. I mean, it's should not be an issue if I don't have to be an expert in aerospace or I don't know car industry and whatever. Of course, I think it works pretty much the same way. It's becoming very standard operations run. We have the same concerns about profitability, about quality, and deadlines, how we can optimize and improve constantly the processes. So it's just a question of learning more about the core business, and it should work, I think. Yeah.
You mentioned the word strategy a few times as one of the key roles. What do we understand with a strategy for operations? Because I don't know, like I never put together any strategies, so maybe that's why I don't understand it. But to me, like the goals are the same, right? Like you always want to satisfy the customer, you want to keep them, you want to make them happy. And I guess you mentioned the profits a few times, and you also want to make sure that your team is happy with the conditions. So how do you create a strategy for operations? What does it include, and why does it change over time?
Well, strategy, yes, well, so the company strategy is all tied together between sales, operations, human resources, etc., and of course technology. So it's how this is combined and works together with the same purpose for the company that is designed by the CEO for operations. Indeed, it can be um, about technology. If we take this example, like the deployment of a tool or production system or new CAD tool or yeah, well, AI, artificial intelligence, sorry, AI, and how we implement that. And for me, this has to do with the strategy. Yeah, so it's a word that encompasses the different type of things. It can be about also about the pricing we want to apply to win one contract and what we are able to put in place to be more attractive for a client in terms of sales strategy and so on. Yeah, so it's what I meant. Yeah.
So it's mostly related to the overall company structure. I understand. Or do you have like a specific strategy um, for just for operations, like how you work with the corporate strategy?
Yeah, I think it's also talking about leadership and in operations. It it needs to be aligned with the corporate strategy, but the operations manager needs to have a vision for his teams and to be able to engage people into the direction he wants to go to. And to do that, he needs a vision. And this is also, for me, vision, strategy are going together because to achieve the vision, you need a strategy. And also to achieve the strategy, you need a vision. So it's part of the responsibility of the operation manager to motivate the team, to explain the objectives, where he wants to go, when, why, and how he will do that. So this is part of the role of the operations manager and his responsibility as a leader. He can develop his own strategy, so to say, to achieve that, but he needs to be aligned with the corporate strategy, of course. And but yeah, it get I I don't know if you I make myself clear enough about that, but I would say that there is the company strategy, and then it can, as a leader of his own team and group of people, the operations manager needs to have as well his specific one for operation.
You mentioned the word profits and profitability a few times.
Yeah, it's a rude word.
As a I wasn't offended, no worries. um, and of course, the clients only want quality, and I guess the teams want to be
Well,
happy.
they want it all, not only quality, they want cheap and of course meeting their requirement and as fast as possible. So it's basically the three angles we need to tackle. But yeah, that's right. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, no worries, no worries. You elaborated on what I wanted to say. So now my question is, how do you as operations manager balance these things? Like, do you need to sometimes make trade-offs? Does it depend on the client? Does it depend on who's working with you for different clients, who is part of the team? How do you answer this ongoing question, quality versus profitability and clients? Maybe a broad question.
Yeah, no, it's well. Usually, this question arises when, well, at the, I would say, at the strategy level. So to say when we want, well, usually the way it works is there is a RFQ or request for quotation or RFP before RFI, and then the company will decide if they are interested or not, or if they want um, to reply and to propose, to make an offer, so to say, and to win this the contract. And at that time, we need to discuss all these aspects that you decided and design a model where we could meet the different criteria which we've talked about profitability, if we need trade-offs indeed or compromises, um, if we and how to achieve the quality. It's more about the customer's requirements and expectations. So it can be through tools or technology again, or the profiles of the resources we want, or the location we want to run the project from, and how we can be as adaptable or agile as possible to do that. So at that time, we decide and we see how we can manage to produce the expected level of service within the objective, the financial objectives or gross margin that uh, we have decided. Then we need to be smart enough to build a model where the costs are reduced or enough minimized so we can have this margin. So using tools and technology, as I said before, and resources, and this will influence the overall production model that we want to put in place for this client. And if we are successful in the selection process and we gain that contract, we should already have in place the model that should allow us to get some profit or to make some money within the quality and turnaround time criteria that have been specified by the client. So it's not just once the contract is there that we need to think about it really upfront, how what type of service and what production model we want to put in place, so we are in the best position to meet these objectives, money, quality, etc.
I'm going to ask a maybe tricky question. And of course, you don't have to say any specifics, but I'm just wondering if you ever were in a situation where the model, as you call it, was unfavorable to any of the parties. And by the parties, I would say we're balancing the client, the company, and then also the team that will be executing on that client.
Yeah, no, I would say pretty often because there is the no, there is the theory, and we don't know. I mean, when there is part of risk and uncertainty when we answer RFQ. I mean, we have the specs. We from the client. We know what we tend to do our best to deep dive and understand. what he wants to achieve, the type of products he wants to get, and how. Um, and then we need to as well to assess the feasibility and the risk, and how to mitigate those risks, because we know that there will be also some discussions with the client, and they will tend to negotiate lower rates, etc. So yeah, we need to accept the risk and see how we can mitigate them, without knowing for sure if this eventually will be successful or not. I mean, we try to mitigate as much as possible the risk, but we need to take them, because, well, I mean, currently, and it's not really new, but the the context is rather, there is a lot of competition and a lot of aggressivity, I would say, uh, regarding pricing all over the place. So it's difficult to differentiate. So very often it's about the money, and providing and offering lower rates, so we can win the deal. And then once we have that, well, we need to set up the best model, and see how we can turn this into a profitable endeavor. I mean, it's part of the job as well, in operations. We inherit sometimes from difficult and challenging contracts. We know that this will be difficult, because very often about money and about expectations. But if we really don't try to do that, I mean, we simply won't be able to grow and to retain clients, and so yeah, we need there is part of uncertainty and risk that is absolutely necessary to accept. But then we have, I mean, we know enough. We have people, experts, also that, well, at the pre-sales stage, that really looking into the details and see uh, yeah, really scrutinizing and looking at all the different aspects of the specs and requirements. And unless it is really a totally unusual or unexpected project with very brand new requirements that we've never seen before, I mean, most of the time we have already packaged solutions, and that we know that will work. There will always be some adjustments or something that we need to fine tune, etc. But it's part of the work, and especially in operation, something we have to deal with every day. I mean, there is, again, the the way we the project or the overall contract was presented, described, etc., and the model we put in place to produce and deliver to the client. But then there are all these unexpected circumstances and conditions that we need to deal with.
Do you think the pressure from the clients, the I would say ongoing pressure from the clients to reduce the rates, is it justified? Is it related to the technology advancements, or do they just always want lower and lower and lower rates?
Justified, from their perspective, probably because their budget. Well, they have to translate more and more content. This is for sure. I mean, we see that every year it's increasing. There is new content created. They have to. Well, they are growing internationally, so globally. So they need to have this translated. This is a fact. But their budget maybe not growing in the same way. So they try to get more content translated, more products released in different languages, but with probably a decreasing budget, or a budget that is increasing but slightly in comparison. So they have also these constraints, and they need to find options to get this done, within their own budget. And they know, I think for that, our clients are more aware and savvy than before. They know, well, of course, definitely about translation memories and CAT tools, so they know that we can translate faster and cheaper. They know now about machine translation. More and more clients are really asking the to integrate well, machine translation in their workflow, and of course they want to have the corresponding discount. They know they are reducing the I would say the transactional work with I can explain that using connectors and CMS connected to our TMS. So this reduces also the manual work and the manual effort. So they think that they should benefit from this as well, because this is something that benefits to I say to us to the LSPs. So I think this is justified, but what remains the core value, I would say, is still the work of the translators. And what I find a little bit unfortunate is really that they are the one also suffering from that. They've seen their rates significantly over the last years, even though they have more work, they can translate more efficiently as well, etc., etc. But it's true that they are really they don't get much money for the work they are producing, and it's the way I see that. So this is where I think the challenge would be in the future for translators. They will need to adapt, of course, and to while some of them are still resistant to machine translation, well, less and less actually, even though they say the contrary, I'm sure they use machine translation, but their work per se will change, and they will need to also to adapt and work differently. And I think they are still needed, absolutely, and they will still need to have a human being reading or post-editing a translation that was produced by artificial intelligence or whatever, because it's still not there in terms of accuracy, etc. But this will be different. I mean, the role of the translator, will also evolve. We have to evolve even more faster than what we thought. So your question was about the rates and if it's justified. I think it's translation is considered as a commodity, and like in what you can buy, like pencil or whatever, by procurement. So they buy a word like they would buy huge quantity of paper or whatever in a company. And so we need to find some value somewhere else by selling additional services, or by providing technical solutions to the clients, like portals, I was mentioning connectors, or reporting tools where they can access on real time the status of their project, when they can order their projects almost automatically in the platform, etc. So it's already there, but it's something where we can differentiate as well, and charge something on top of the traditional word and the translation effort, like glossaries or SEOs, or a lot of different type of services that it's really needed to have a more diverse and more a wider type range of services than only purely translation. Otherwise, it will be difficult to make money.
So speaking of the technology advancements and where maybe the LSPs can provide more value than they used to so far, how do you see the operations evolve with AI?
So it's I took some notes because it's like evolving every day. There is a lot of excitement and hype around not only AI, but large language models or generative AI, because AI is there, I mean, in translation and operations already for decades. I mean, with MT, it's not something new, but it's more really about the new models that have been developed recently, and maybe for the last 6 months, it's becoming really crazy, and not only in our business, of course, but as a side effect in our business. So in operations, I think it's difficult to keep a cool mind at the moment and to see exactly what uh, what's would be the actual application. There would be some of them are already becoming clear. Like I've seen recently, it was a webinar or something demo about quality assessment of translation. This is something that with um, generative AI we could work with in operations, and that would be definitely suitable and helpful. Um, there would be also some content creation directly into the target languages without going through translation. But this is also maybe restricted to some very particular content, maybe marketing, emails, or communication, uh, or blogs, or this type of things that could be really generated directly by the artificial intelligence, and not in all languages. So that's pretty limited so far. It's not that large array of languages, maybe a couple of languages only. Um, and what else in operations did I see that could be impactful for us? I mean, we've all played with ChatGPT, and well, can be amazed with the results, or sometimes it's a bit absurd. But if translator can use this when doing his translation and ask, what is this concept about, or what is the definition of that? Where can I find this? This can be helpful to access some information very quickly and have some reliable. You always need to be careful with that. But, as long as you don't use as is the information you get, I mean, depending also on the type of content you are dealing with, it can be helpful. And also, I think MT will benefit from AI furthermore with machine translation, but also with probably gaining in even more accuracy in the future, near future, probably. And oh yeah, there were two other, I would say, fancy features I liked and that could be also applied in operations, is creating slide decks or PowerPoints, and uh, summarizing also large amounts of data where if you have, I don't know, you receive from a client a huge amount of um, references, or say documents to support. I mean, you during the translation, you can have this because you cannot read and go through all of this. If this we're talking about hundreds of pages, you can have this possibility for a synthesis and summary of these documents with all the relevant information. So I think I'm not really, again, an expert. I don't have the full picture of it, but over the last 6 months, this may be the couple of things and applications I could see directly in operations.
Now, do you see ChatGPT somehow helping you with team management?
uh, in a specific situation, or
I would say in general, like, like when we're talking about operations management, so that, like a big aspect of that is, assigning resources, which partially includes people. And also, I guess you have to deal with people and maybe some of their requests, some of their questions.
I would not exclude that, but I don't think that would be really the best fit, because dealing with human beings is not. I'm just thinking with concrete examples, but I think it could help, but I would not blindly follow that. It would not be the first tool I would use to manage people. There is too much psychology at stake. It depends on the people. You are not dealing with robots, and yeah, it can give you some reference to maybe management gurus, or how you would deal with specific situation, or would be advisable, how you would approach lack of motivation, or how to develop further the skills of someone in your team, etc. Yeah, maybe this type of questions could be helpful, but like, please, ChatGPT, how should I uh, manage my team? I don't think, but again, depends on the prompt and the way you use that. And uh, it's what is valid today may not be valid anymore tomorrow. It may be different. So uh, I can just give you my 5 cents as of today.
Yeah, maybe that was a stupid question, but I was trying to find a way how to segue from large language models to team management and leadership, because that's our, let's say, second set of questions that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about that. You mentioned that as an operations manager, obviously you need to be a leader because you're responsible for so many teams. How would you describe your leadership style? And maybe even start by giving us your definition of what is a leadership style. Are there different styles for different people?
Maybe management may be different, but for leadership, I think leadership is, well, is again another fancy word that we all should be leaders in everything we do, and there should be, or supposed to be, the leaders and the non-leaders. I think it's doesn't work this way. I think people, it was the way you phrase your question, if are we born leaders, or do we become leaders, or are you, I think uh, everyone has this potential and can be a leader in his field or domain, and yeah, in every, almost every aspect. But I I think, yeah, this is, regardless of really the age and the position in a company or in the org chart. It's really in the attitude, and it's really what I think is important. Yeah, to have this vision and set objectives, and to to get and secure the engagement of your teams and the people you are working with, to get their buy-in, or to regarding this vision and the objectives. So it's up to the leader to motivate, to explain, to train the people, to communicate on what the vision is and what we want to really to be achieved there. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm more into the convincing, explaining to people rather than imposing things. Because being a leader is not saying just, yeah, this is the way it is and it should be. It's really to make people understand, and to rally, and to be able to embark. I mean, I'm using different words, but to have the people following you, basically not like sheeps, but really because they are convinced that this is the way to go, and the right approach. And this is the whole challenge, is to keep the momentum and the motivation, so people are really following and supporting the vision. Don't know if it answers your question, but and to do that, of course, the leader need to have, I would say, active listening, to have critical thinking, to be able to adapt, to listen to people. It's why I said, but not just by being polite, but really to be open to, as well, to the feedback he gets from the teams, and etc. And it's about trust and loyalty, also, to build that, so that the people are really reliable and engaged, and they know that they are loyal because they trust you. So it's a lot of alchemy and working in this. I don't see as there is no recipe for that, and it's really yeah, individual. It depends, as you said, on the people you have to deal with, and it needs to be adapted as well to the circumstances. Yeah.
I'm wondering what kind of a leader you would be if you were managing me. sure if I mentioned this to you before, but I think I used to be a sort of a black sheep in almost every company where I work for. And many times it's that the decisions, or let's say the vision, you used the word vision before, that maybe the company has or my manager has doesn't make much sense to me. How would you deal with someone who doesn't, let's say, rationally get the vision or what you're trying to get the people to do? How would you convince them?
Um, I mean, when you were saying you were the black sheep, it's because you were put into that position, or you were yourself. Can I say that because of your attitude or
Yes,
mindset?
partially because of my attitude, but when it comes to how we were doing things, and I'm pretty sure that you had this experience as well because you used to work for large organizations. And let's say if you want to, I don't know, see change going way faster as an employee, maybe you suggest certain things, but you don't hear back from the management because I don't know, they don't want to change or they're too slow to change. So this kind of like creates a conflict. Or sometimes, like I can understand maybe now why, for example, like when we were talking about profitability, like I understand why the management needs to achieve certain level of profitability. But for example, if I'm a project manager working for a client, maybe my main goal is to give the client the best service, even if it, let's say, hits the profitability. So this can create some sort of like a conflict, and sometimes it's really just like in my mind, my reasoning, what makes sense to me is not fully aligned with what maybe the company or my manager wants. So how would you deal with these situations where the people just, I don't know, have completely different mindset or different reasoning and they don't see the things as you or the company wants them to?
Well, I think you were asking me my management style. I say I like involving people. I think it's important in the in the full process, and to get the opinion as well of the people and the feedback, and to be open-minded and to adjust as well the goals accordingly. I would not say that the goal would be fully and thoroughly changed, because I mean, as a manager, you need to follow as well, and to be aligned with the top management strategy and objectives. So you cannot simply just say, no, we will do totally differently and when look at different objectives. But you can, if you manage to achieve the expected objectives using a different way or different path, why not? I mean, I think I'm open-minded to that, but the core objective could not be it would not be honest to tell you, yeah, I would change my mind because someone in the team is saying, no, I don't want to do that this way. uh, I think this is nonsense. I will not do that. No, of course, it's at the end of the day, you need to deliver. You need to be in sync with company strategy, but there would be some different way to achieve the same result. And for that, I leave enough, I would say, freedom or room to the people in my teams to do that this way, to use their own um, judgment to to achieve what they think is the right result. So there may be trade-offs, or what you are describing as, okay, maybe for this specific client, we will the priority is to keep him happy because we want to retain him, even though we would not get as much money as expected. But what matters is that we keep this client. So in this, something that is acceptable. Of course, if all the clients are money, no, sorry, um, ah, uh, losing money, yeah, of course. I forgot what I was about to say. No, yeah, we have to see the big picture and see if we can make some adjustment for some clients, and for the others, yeah, have a different approach. But going back to your question, how I would manage that, I think it's being the black sheep seems negative. We always need someone with a critical thinking. It's important to know, really, to have someone in the team who would say, like, well, devil's advocate or whatever we call them, and just sometime to uh, shake you a little bit up because and say, no, look, what we are doing here is nonsense. We we should not be doing this way. We have at least just to yeah to trigger this critical thinking and say and to take a step aside and say, okay, maybe indeed we should consider doing things differently, and we need, new ideas, or we need to be agile and see, or we have not tried this with this client, so maybe we should try to do things differently and not just really being stubborn and keeping on doing things because it's the way we've always done that. So it's yeah, I always had this type of people, but then I would differentiate the people with really purely negative approach, who are just in this in this mood, just saying no, I'm resisting any kind of change, or I disagree just by principle. To the people who think who are smart, well, the other ones are smart also, but different attitude. It's not really, um, and would say, okay, maybe we should consider a different approach. People with, outside the box thinking, who are different, and this is something that is very valuable because we have people very good at executing and just applying a process and workflow step by step, and they do that perfectly. But sometimes it's important to have people who, with different mindset, who would say, who would do things differently and be at the end achieving the same result or even be more efficient. So I would not just lock you in a in a room as a black sheep so that you're, you are not in contact with other people because uh, you may cause some disruption in the team. But I would try to find to make I would say the most of your skills and what you can bring to your contribution to the team. I don't say this is easy, especially when you're already dealing with many people and having a specific situation, but it's part of the manager's responsibility to do that. I don't think that just kicking people out of the team just because they're at this different uh, approach is the solution. Oh,
I like when you said that everybody can be a leader, regardless of the position. What does it mean to you to be a leader? How can let's say, a translator, we were talking about translators, or a project manager, how can a translator or a project manager be a leader?
someone who it seems very maybe exaggerated, but someone who inspires other people in what he does or what she does every day. Can be a translator. I mean, who was something that could be really shared with others that could inspire. Yeah, I think it's inspiring people. People who do follow or do the same or try to um, how can I say that? Take this for themselves as well and see if this is beneficial to them, and they will do the same in their work and follow that person and the way that person is acting. Well, not globally, but for maybe specific examples. So I think this is leadership as well, and someone who would as well get would rally people and lead people in in direction and doing something. Well, I'm just trying to find examples, but can be project managers definitely that will inspire our colleagues and uh, just will maybe doing things differently. People will do the same because they see the results that this is working pretty well. So I think it's everyone is has this possibility.
Were there times where you failed to be a leader?
Yeah, it's well, I think it was when I started as when I was a young manager with some preconceived ideas about how management was, etc. Very more mostly theory, and I thought that I didn't was not able actually to empower, and it's something yeah, I wanted to say before. It's really a leader is someone who will empower people and make feel them responsible for what they are doing, or giving them uh, the ability to fulfill their role completely, and not just executing because they are asked to do that, just but at least to understand, seeing the point, and understanding yeah, what they are doing, why it is important, and why they should do that properly. And this depends a lot on the trust that the leader would grant to the people in the team. And I think mutual trust is key there, uh, and is part of leadership also. People feels that their manager or the leader with the leadership is trusting them, that they have the right tools, or that they got through the training, coaching, or mentoring, and they are able to do that properly, that they are working autonomously. And this is something important also, that people feel empowered enough so that they can work on their own, and not having people. You were asking something about micromanagement, but I think it's really totally contradictory, and the opposite of leading, micromanaging people. It's I would say killing the trust in themselves, and their engagement as well. So going back, yeah, to where I felt, it's really I didn't um, delegate, not because I didn't trust enough the people, and I wanted to control things. I wanted to have really large control over what people were doing, because I was really concerned about quality, and very I would say under the pressure from the client, etc. So I thought that by controlling more and doing more things myself, that would work better. And I was totally overwhelmed. I realized that people were not engaged and committed enough to what they had to do, because they knew that I would be doing this anyway after that, and that I would be controlling. And that simply didn't work. And for myself, it was not a solution. And for the people either, because they didn't feel trust, and yeah, they didn't want to do more. So I failed to explain the vision I had, and I could not set clear objectives uh, to the people. So it was more a surviving mode rather than really a working model. And also, what failed there is that I didn't have a manager who would have told me, "Oh, look, what you are doing is not correct." So I think to be as well a leader, you need another leader, or someone to lead you or to inspire you, and then you would probably cascade it to other people. And this is what didn't work. And it changed the day I had another manager stepping in, and who basically opened my eye, and yeah, gave me a couple of hints and tips, and etc. And some guidance also, for sure. And I changed my approach also. And this was a relief for me, because my personal life was better, and the work balance was better, and the people in the team as well felt also more valued for their work, and more accountable and responsible for what they had to do, and they accepted therefore more to have more responsibilities. Yeah, so that was the early days when I started managing people, where it failed.
When you talked about the trust, I thought of a question. Do you think that trust is something that needs to be gained over time? Or now, after your years of experience, do you automatically trust everyone that you start working with? And then eventually they can only, let's say, lose your trust?
Yeah, it's actually what I tell people when I start when I take over new teams and working with people. That's probably one of the first thing I'm saying is that by default I trust people, and then it's up to them, of course, to well to maintain it or to lose it. Of course, it's not like a threat. It's a fact. I say, look, I would trust you, and but don't give me any reason not to do that. And yeah, it worked. But to achieve that, of course, and this is well the general rule I have now, but it will depend also because I'm not too naive. It's if I'm taking over a very junior team and with people I know that we need maybe more sorry a tighter management, or more to be more careful about what they are doing. It may be a bit different. I would probably set some controls, not of course micromanaging, but I'll be probably more careful asking for the adequate reporting and probably uh, asking more questions about critical topics and being more careful about a couple of things because I could be doomed to failure. But globally speaking, when I've been working with people already who are senior in their role, and unless I've heard before from HR or their previous manager warnings, or I would trust people by default. Yeah, it's I think it's really about the character and the personality of the people. So um, not about when you say you can gain it over time. I don't think that would change if over time people would remain as they are. So, but then I would also adjust if I see that it doesn't work, and I would be, of course, not losing full trust, but I would be more careful about a couple of topics or indicators and criteria. I would monitor differently.
All right. Now let's talk about something more personal, maybe outside of localization. What are you curious about right now? And I mean, it can also be related to work if you want. But what is something that keeps you, I don't know, up at night?
Well, related to technology, I'm not very, well, I will not be very move too much away from what we've been discussed, but I think artificial intelligence is really something that which I find very exciting. Not necessarily in our business. I see that in sciences, in culture, in art, everything, all the applications there, and in the medical field, it's extremely promising. And we are in the middle of this revolution. For me, it's really revolution. It's going to impact our lives, of course, with a lot of ethical or topics at stake because we need some gatekeepers there. Otherwise, it would be there are some also some dangers about privacy or copyright and also about accuracy and reliability of the data that can be generated. It can be extremely misleading. I guess you heard about the hallucinations, what we call the hallucinations of artificial intelligence, where it's purely nonsense. I mean, it looks like something very elaborated, very very clever. But if you know the field and the domain, you realize that this is just only uh, yeah it's incorrect, to be polite. What the model and the algorithm is providing you with. So yeah, this is something we need to consider. In terms of interest, I like, of course, traveling. It's not really original, and visiting. I was visiting the US a couple of times. This year, I find it very beautiful, and I like all this nature and the culture as well over there. So I was in very different states, and every state is typically specific and uh, I think it's really well, a country. It's difficult to call it a country because it's such a huge and can I say that? I don't have the words in English, but it's like discovering a new word whenever you go there to a different state. Um, and what else did you ask about? Hmm. No, generally speaking, I'm very. I like reading and literature and music, etc. So I've got a lot of topics to remain awake and to keep a balance because this was also what you were asking between work and life, I would say, or and work. It's not really work and life because work is part of life, but the personal life and professional life. Um, I also do a lot of sport, and I'm actually a boxer, and I do a lot of this, and that helps me keep my mind and the rest of physically for as long as possible in a good shape.
You are a boxer,
Yeah, yeah.
really?
Not a professional boxer, but I was not. But I
Doesn't it hurt?
no, it's this sport has maybe bad reputation or whatever, but when you do that, I mean, it's less risky to do that with people who are already pretty much trained and with who have been practicing for many years. It's everything is really controlled, and it's not like a fight in the bar. It's. I guess you will not hurt. You will less hurt yourself doing sparring or boxing training than doing other sports like skiing or or even football or soccer or is more dangerous. You can really hurt yourself and get injured much more seriously. In boxing, you have protections, so it's fine. There is a lot of respect. It's no aggressivity. So yeah, it's a good way to keep a balance. Also with my life, and I have my kids, but my kids are no, they are old enough, but I still spend time with them doing going to concert, for instance, or doing stuff. So that's uh, that's the way yeah, I balance it.
Have you ever been in a fight?
No, because in you know that when you practice boxing or any type of sport like that, fighting sport, that it can be painful, and you learn how to de-escalate the situation. If you see what I mean, because or either you defend yourself, but the best thing to do is really to avoid the troubles and not get into fights unless it's something you have no choice. But if you have this in mind, you know that you would avoid it and you will not get into fights. So that's probably the best thing to do, and is to avoid it, not to run. Sometimes even running away when you because you don't know what can happen in a fight. You don't know what people have there in their pockets. No, it can get really bad. Not like in movies. Yeah, no, it's better to do that if you really need to sweat to do that in a club. It's much more secure.
Okay, the next question, I guess, what's something people seem to misunderstand about you? I guess if you tell me you're a boxer, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's mm, overall I try to be very pragmatic, and sometimes it's seen as I don't show emotion or that I'm very distant. It's something I'm trying to. It's not that I don't have emotion. Of course I have, but I don't share it at work, or I mean to a very low extent, because and I've seen that when they're in our business industry, we have a lot of pressure from clients or from teammates, colleagues, managers, and everywhere. But especially with clients, so you need to, and as a manager, you need to be there to calm down people and to basically to take over their stress, and so they can be in the best conditions to work, and they don't panic. You should not add stress to a stress situation already, or to a stressing situation. So maybe this is why I don't overreact. I don't overreact at work. I'm not, getting and shouting and this type of things. And I know people, because it's maybe their personality, and they need to do that. But I don't think as a manager it's advisable. So yeah, it could be considered as someone that doesn't have that is not concerned about people's emotions, etc. But it's no, it's the opposite. And whenever there is a need, and people who know me, especially in my teams, they know they can come to me and ask, and they get support. I just don't, overreact. So this is probably a misunderstanding. It's difficult to see and to get into my mind sometimes, because I will not show type of emotions, and it's what I thought of when I saw your question about misunderstanding. And besides, I may look maybe cold sometimes, but I also like celebrating and having fun with my teams. And so, yeah, it's probably something I prefer, expressing myself in positive situation, that in, when it's more negative, and as I said, being even more panicked or in a stress mode, and the other people, yeah.
How do you like to celebrate with your team?
Yeah, we go and out, and have some drinks, or having a good restaurant, and type of things. Or I mean, bringing used to do that when we celebrate birthdays or these type of things, to bring some cake, and or to have people preparing cakes and bringing something to drink, and something we used to do. Well, it was possible with smaller teams, but when bigger teams, it's more the manager, can I say that, the team leaders who do that cannot be everywhere in, in the other teams in Europe to celebrate. But when I visit people there, I always like to invite the teams to dinners or lunch, etc. It's good to break the ice and talk directly with people in person. It has been a bit challenging over the last 3 years, but I hope it can happen again now that we can travel, not just through the monitor of the computer. It's a pity.
And my notorious question: what do you think is wrong with our industry?
I think we briefly spoke about it before, but I think I don't have the definite answer. Otherwise, I would have brought some solutions, and I would have made some money over there. But it's it's what I say. I explained to you. It's about pricing, and the fact that translation is seen as a commodity or something. A type of normal uh, goods that you can buy and negotiate with, etc. So I think this is the most damageable part of it. And I think unlike interpreters who have been much better organized, and were able to defend more their their rates, and their status over the last decade. Translators tended to also to follow the trend, translators and LSPs, to get the prices down, just to follow the customers' uh, requests. And basically, we shoot into our foot. I don't know if it's English to say that, but we shoot a bullet into our foot. It's the way I say that. It makes sense, because it's never ending trend. I mean, it goes down, down. I don't know where, and how down we will go with that. One day, how much will a word be worth, or are we going to still pay by the word, or I don't know. So it's probably what is not working there. So we need to find other services, something to bring value to what we can offer to our client, like consulting or additional services, as I said, um, or developing technology so we can compensate the lower rates with lower costs, but and being more efficient in the way we produce the translation. Yeah, these are problems that we have been facing for more than 10 years, and they are still there. And I think this is going to speed up now with machine translation and so on. There will be more discounts expected by clients, of course, more volumes to translate. So yeah, we need to probably to rely on technology to help us achieve that. Maybe there are some niche. Do you know? Yeah, does it say that to me? Yeah, in the domains. Seen that recently about companies specialized in patent translations. Um, that's where you can still make money over there, or legal translations. Licenses is also some domains that we where basically the clients still are earning a lot of money and their budget also accordingly. But otherwise, yeah, it's a bit it's not really bright in terms of pricing in the manufacturing or industry fields, and there we really need to produce massively with automated workflows, etc., as much as possible, and to be to be effective. But then it's again technology for sure, and having different roles for project managers because the workflows will be mostly automated with TMS and so on, and connectors between the CMS and the TMS. So the role of the project managers will become for this type of projects different. We need to change that and probably being more consultant for the clients and providing um, suggestions or helping finding solutions to produce the translation of their content differently. It's tricky actually to answer this question because I guess the Lion Bridge or RWS or keywords exam, they would have contacted me and say, "Oh, you have the solution to the main problems in our company." But I think content management overall is still has a bright future because the more we produce content in all the fields, the more we need to have this in multilingual content. So we will need services and but yeah, how to produce for lower cost and faster, etc. So yeah, again, it's intelligence, artificial intelligence, and technology that would give us the solution. Yeah, that's all I had in mind there. It's no, it was it's a headache.
Yeah, I know. I didn't expect you to provide a solution. I think this question is mostly for people to sort of rant and just say what is wrong, and maybe someone who listens will come up with some solution.
Yeah, no, what is wrong? I don't think we're so wrong. I mean, it's just per se the the core business, which is difficult because it's still an activity where we need, and thanks God, it's the case, the human beings. So human beings should really remain at the core of this business and this industry. But the work that is produced is not a commodity. It's not something you can dispose of or like just this pencil. It's not a word you translate. There is an intellectual process. There is someone who's thinking and doing some researches of terminology and to understand what he's translating, etc. There is an effort and there is value there. It's how to reflect it in the price and that we are selling our client, make it something acceptable and where yeah. So maybe we will realize that the big companies, these large um, organizations may not be the right model anymore. There have been so many mergers and acquisitions over the last years that, and now we have these huge companies with thousands of people and with a lot of fixed costs, etc. Maybe it's not the best model. Maybe we should come back to smaller companies with less people, maybe, but doing more added value per work and keeping key people only doing the producing and delivering. I don't know, because you need people to run this large organization. These are costs, and the more people you have, the more you need managers, you need support teams, IT, HR, etc., etc. And this costs money, and you cannot be in a position to charge the client for this cost. That's that's the problem.
All right, maybe let's end this interview on a more positive note. If you could say your final words, if you could speak to anyone in the industry, what would you tell them?
Well, maybe I will repeat myself. Uh, Really, it's the final words you said in the industry. So we see technology is really evolving at a huge speed, and it's a new era that is starting with artificial intelligence, not only in our industry but globally. So our jobs are going to evolve in the future in the wake of artificial intelligence. But there will still be a need for multilingual and multiculturalism experts. So it's the way I would call us in the industry. And so that we would have, we need to find our where we would stand in the new models in the industry, and we probably there will probably be a place for everyone. And what we need to keep in mind again is that human beings need humans need to remain at the core and the center of all the activities. This is, I think, what's what I would keep in mind for the future. Uh, yeah, it's exciting. We should not be afraid of that.